Yesterday, North Carolina became one of the many states to amend their constitution to strictly prohibit homosexual marriage. The amendment North Carolina passed also refuses to recognize any same-sex marriage established by another state. I'm disgusted by the result of that election. I'm repulsed by the laziness of those who opposed that amendment but couldn't carve some time out of their hectic schedules to vote for something that really matters. I'm disgusted by those who did go out of their way to cast ballots with the specific motivation of crippling the rights and abilities of others who have nothing to do with them. What might disturb me most of all, however, is that this is even a matter of debate to begin with. This is May 9th, 2012. The lack of maturity our country shows by even acknowledging the possibility of a vote like this is equivalent to a 30-year-old man fearing the boogeyman's impending residence in his closet. How is it possible that in 2012, when we as a species have achieved such technological advancement, we still dare to justify hatred of our fellow humans with such archaic magnitudes of ignorance? We can video chat with people on the other side of the planet using devices that fit in the palms of our hands, but we're still passing political policies that deliberately remove rights from one another. An overwhelming majority of North Carolina voters exercised their right to vote yesterday with the specific intent of restraining other people. Voters went out of their way to prove their ignorance, bigotry, and/or fundamentalist religious zeal by casting votes that provided nothing but an attack on the freedoms of an entire demographic. There is not a single reasonable argument in favor of amending a state constitution to outlaw homosexual marriage. If you're educated enough to understand that sexual orientation is not a personal choice, then you should realize this amendment is just as ruthless as one forbidding interracial marriage would be. If you're too ignorant to understand that sexual orientation is not a choice, then you should consider that even if it was a choice, this would remain an equally evil amendment. Under that instance, it would be tantamount to amending a constitution to forbid those who chose to wear their hair long from getting married to each other. You don't choose your ethnicity, and you do choose your hairstyle, but neither of those things have anything to do with whether or not two people who love each other should have the right to be wed. And neither does their sexual orientation. I would hope this video reaches every single person who voted in favor of Amendment 1, but being as most of them are probably elderly Republican trailer park denizens who couldn't operate a computer to save their lives, that would be too lofty of an ambition. I do, however, hope this reaches many people who supported that amendment, because that's who I'm talking to now. I want those of you who supported that amendment to close your eyes and slap your temple if that's what it takes to kickstart that decrepit amalgamation of listless cells you call a brain, because I'm going to ask you to imagine something. Imagine that homosexuals were the majority in your state. Imagine that as a heterosexual child, you were constantly hectored by your classmates, or even your teachers and parents, because you apparently chose to be heterosexual. You had to choose between being openly straight and hated by the majority around you, or pretending to be gay, just so you could be accepted. Then, as you matured, you were happy to see all the friends who were willing to accept you for being different getting married. You were happy to know that if your friend Bill was severely incapacitated, his husband would be legally allowed to speak on his behalf and be granted exclusive visitation rights. It brought you joy to know that such loving couples as your lesbian neighbors were able to legally consecrate their relationship with the wedding they'd always dreamed about. You were happy for them, but deeply wished you could have the right to do the same with the person you love. Unfortunately, the person you love doesn't share your gender, and the bigoted homosexual majority around you considers marriage between opposite genders to be impure based on their fear of that which is different from them and supported by the doctrine of their personal religions. How would it make you feel? What would give them the right to hoard the right of marriage to themselves merely because that was the definition they were most comfortable with? Would their disgust for the thought of you having sex with someone of another gender justify them going out of their way to restrict you of the rights that they enjoy? Consider that, you backwoods, uncivilized, pitiful creatures who voted in favor of an amendment which did just that. Think about it as you sit in your lawn chairs under your Confederate flags and drink your Budweisers. Think of it as you don your Sunday best and strut into church on Sunday to display how fucking perfect and holy you are. Think about the tears shed every day by those made to feel inferior and guilty by scum like you, and the adolescent caskets filled with corpses of those who couldn't cope with the guilt or the curse they were born with. How dare they inherit that curse of being different from you? And how dare they entertain the possibility of sharing the rights that you enjoy? Sleep well tonight, North Carolina. Know that the majority of your voting populace is the punchline of the joke that begins as follows: America, land of the free.